Salve, let's continue reviewing verbs so we can get to that perfect synopsis. Ad astra per aspera. Let's get off on the right foot. Remember, a dictionary entry for a verb has four principal parts. The root of a verb is one of the building blocks. It comes from the second principal part, the present active infinitive, minus the last three letters. So you're going to be removing the vowel plus the RE for each conjugation. The present stem comes also from the infinitive, but minus only the last two letters, which is to say the RE. The present stem ends in a vowel. The root usually ends in a consonant. Perfect stem, another building block, comes from the third principal part minus the letter I, and the supine stem comes from the fourth principal part minus the UM, or if the fourth principal part is given with a US, minus the US. At the top of a synopsis sheet, there will always be a space for the person and number in which you will perform the synopsis. So, once again, you will only be using one person and one number throughout a given synopsis. Once again, the indicative mood is used to express facts. There are 6 tenses of the indicative, and there are 2 voices. So a verb could be present active or present passive. Could be any one of these 6 tenses, either voice. To form the present, imperfect, and future tenses, we're going to be using either the present stem, infinitive minus the last 2 letters, or the root, infinitive minus the last 3 letters. To form the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect tenses, we're going to be using either the perfect stem or the supine stem. Former Hackley students have learned the present active by singing a song, paro, paras, parat, paramus, paratus, parant, and all the way through all 4 conjugations. To make the present passive, mostly you will just change these active endings to the passive endings. Mus, tis, and then nt. But there are a few exceptions. So if the first person singular passive is the letter R, we're still going to hang on to that O. So paror, I am prepared. Second conjugation, same thing. You're going to hold on to the O along with the R. Mone or, I am warned. Same thing in third conjugation. Regor, I am ruled. Second person singular, you would normally expect an I here because the second person singular active is regis, but in fact the ending is eris, not iris. 3IO, again, hang on to the O, and again, the second person singular is eris, even though the second person singular active form was capis. So you're going to change that I to an E in the passive. Fourth conjugation, the only difference is that you're going to hang on to that O one more time for first person singular. Example verb paramor, we are prepared, and hang on to that English word by because that will help you identify the agent or the ablative of means in the sentence. You may remember that imperfect verbs are all recognized by their BA before the personal ending. So the endings are really bam, bas, bat, bamus, batis, bant. Remember that when an I use spy, place an E before the B, which is to say in a 3IO verb and in a fourth conjugation verb. And the I that you're spying, by the way, comes from the first person singular, audio or copio. It's this I. So when you see this I, you know that in the imperfect there will be both an I and an E before the B of the imperfect ending. Big star next to the irregular verb sum, the only verb in Latin, along with its compounds, that does not use BA in the imperfect. You simply have to memorize eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. How do you translate the imperfect? I was ing is the best translation. So for eram, I was being. But more often we translate the imperfect using this, I was, past tense. It can also be translated, I used to be. To form the imperfect passive, very easy. You really do substitute the passive endings for the active endings. So change MST mustis unt to R ris tur more mini entur, and you will have passive imperfect forms as mone bar, I was being warned, audie ba mini, you all were being heard, parabantur, they were being prepared by, or they were prepared by. The future tense is the only tense in Latin with two separate sets of endings. There's one for first and second conjugation verbs and one for third and fourth conjugation verbs. Hackley students have learned the little rhyme, or the little cheer, bo, be, boo, conjugations 1 and 2, a, e, conjugations 4 and 3. Or for this fourth and third conjugation, ham and 5 eggs, because the first person singular ends in am, and the other forms have the letter e in them. So you can see the bo, be, boo hiding in the actual endings for a first and second conjugation verb in the future. Bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. Add those endings to the present stem. So if I take the verb paro, present stem, para, bo, bis, bit, para, bimus, bitis, bunt. I will prepare. Third and fourth conjugation, for the most part, you're going to be taking the root plus the endings am, ace, et, amus, atus, ent, where you can see the ham and 5 eggs, or the a, e. It is tricky, however, because in the fourth conjugation, you're actually using the present stem, audi am, audi ace, audi et. So I probably should make this a little more specific. Present stem plus endings for fourth conjugation, root plus endings for third conjugation. Sum, again, is irregular. So I'm always writing it in orange here. Ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritus, erunt. I will be, you will be, etc. Here are some words that you may be familiar with. Placebo literally means I will please. In English, this word is placebo, which is a medicine that will please somebody, it tricks somebody who doesn't really need a medicine. Amabote, do you remember? This is one way to say please. Literally, I will love you if you do something for me. Mitam, I will send. Erimus, we will be. There it is. Audiet, he, she, or it will hear. To form the perfect, remember the perfect stem comes from the third principal part. Drop the I and add the new endings, e, isti, it, imus, istis, a, runt. Get in the habit of saying that long e there. It will help you. In translation, the perfect in Latin combines the English present perfect and our simple past tense. Easiest translation is the simple past tense, as in Wainy Weedy Weeky, I came, I saw, I conquered. But we can also use the helping verb have in English. So I have come, I have seen, I have conquered, and we can also use the helping verb did. For emphasis, I did come, I did see, I did conquer. In English, we have a word affidavit, which is really a Latin verb. Affidavit, he, she, or it has sworn to something. The pluperfect means the more than completely done tense. So in the active, we're going to take the perfect stem, third principal part, drop the I, and add the imperfect, that irregular imperfect of sum, as an ending this time. So I could take a verb, moneo, monere, monui, drop the I, perfect stem plus, aramarasarat, etc., monuerant, they had warned. The only translation for the pluperfect is with the English helping verb had, plus a past tense. He, she, or it had seen, and again from the verb to be itself. Sum esse fui, fuerat, he, she, or it had been, paraveras, you had prepared. Future perfect means time completed in the future. Take the perfect stem one more time, third principal part, drop the I. This time add the future of sum, but be careful of the third person plural. The future of sum is ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritus, erunt. But we just saw that ending, remember I said with a long mark over it, that is a perfect ending. So the Romans really like to keep things as clear as possible, as unambiguous as possible. So in the future perfect, the third person plural ending is erint. We often translate the future perfect into English using the English present, but literally, I will have in the future completed something. I will have done something. Cape ero, I will have captured. Parawerit, he shearit will have prepared. Audiwerint, they will have heard. The perfect passive participle comes from the fourth principal part of the verb. Take the supine stem, remember the fourth principal part minus and then add us a to create an adjective. This adjective will agree with the subject of the verb in gender, case, and number. Paratus having been prepared. Auditus having been heard. In the passive, the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect actually become two-word verbs. And the first part of the verb is the perfect passive participle, that adjective that we just looked at, plus a form of sum, which is actually now working like an English helping verb. To form the perfect passive, take the PPP plus the present of sum. The pluperfect passive uses that past participle plus the imperfect of sum, and the future perfect passive, again, starts with the perfect passive participle plus the future of sum, and because we're using this as a real word, not as an ending, you'll notice there's no hyphen in front of each of these forms. We go right back to the regular future form of sum. And here are a few examples of those last three tenses. Always look at the form of sum to figure out what tense you've got. So I start with a PPP, a perfect passive participle. This is the imperfect of sum, so I must have a pluperfect tense. Helping verb is always had. Now we're in the passive, had been prepared. Perfect passive participle, and again, notice that the endings on the participle change. So sumus is a first-person plural verb. The adjective needs to be plural. We were warned. Perfect passive participle plus the present of sum makes this perfect passive. So we were warned. This could also be we have been warned. Perfect passive participle, present tense of sum. Again, I've got the perfect passive. It, because I have a neuter form here, was heard. It could also be has been heard. Alternate translation for the perfect passive. Kaptai erunt, perfect passive participle. Future of sum gives me a future perfect passive. They will have been captured. Perfect passive participle, present tense of sum gives me perfect passive. They were prepared, or they have been prepared. Perfect passive participle, imperfect of sum makes for a pluperfect passive. You had been heard. We will see all of these tenses laid out on one chart on a piece of paper, and I think you'll see how it all fits together a little bit better. Please, please, please be sure to ask questions in class. Wale.